So you studied artificial intelligence as like part of your master's, and you kind of still do like AI work. Um, how close are we to Skynet?
um, I would say it's here in many forms already. Like
Hmm.
you do have a lot of control of content and thought and influence of thought, kind of directorial influence of people and kind of social credit systems
Hmm.
everywhere. Like even if you were to compare Shenzhen to say like Western economies, we have our own forms of social credit that are
Hmm.
being watched and inform what you're capable of doing, like if you can get credit or not, things like that.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say it's here in many forms and enforced in surveillance systems and in many forms. And yeah,
But what about like towards like a general, in terms of like a general intelligence kind of thing, where it's like just it's like self-cognizant and able to like assert its own will?
right. I
Because
I
I've seen
guess
videos of like Elon Musk like just try like pleading with people like we need to stop AI stuff. We need to. I mean, I know he's a fucking weirdo, but like it is very like looming, especially in like the tech space. People either say that it's an insane thing that's not going to happen, or like no, it's halfway that we're already halfway there.
yeah, I guess people have this image of Skynet as being like a central authority figure where there's going to be like one entity that controls thought and dictates, actions. But for
Hmm.
me, intelligence has never been like that. Intelligence is a distributed, worldwide network, and that's what we have in terms of AI systems currently.
Hmm.
So I don't think that we'll ever see a central authority like dictating actions, like a sort of dictatorship of AI. I'm
Hmm.
not sure if that's the future that we're headed to. I do see that within like, say, um, certain decision processes like drone attacks or things
Hmm.
that are maybe have like split second decision actions that are controlled by AI. I would see that as something that is the closest form of that. But
Hmm.
yeah, that crops up in a lot of spaces, I think.
I mean, it's very
Policing,
much
basically.
ever since like the dawn of like automation and stuff. People have been freaking out about like robots taking people's places. And as we do increase like uh, automation, machine learning with things.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm still very I'm still generally pretty optimistic about things. But at the same
Mm.
time, because I don't explicitly work in the space of like developing things. I know the word algorithm, but I couldn't for the life of you like tell you how to make one or like how anybody goes about doing any of that shit.
Yeah, it's a bunch of like primitives stacked together until they do something useful, basically. Yeah,
Hmm.
but it's yeah, it's an interesting space. It's rifled with problems, systemic problems, obviously that it just get like, exacerbated as you scale the technology to the size of society and like put
Hmm.
them in your phones, in
Hmm.
in police stations, things like that. Like it's rifled with problems, but there's also so much possibility, I think, for understanding human nature, understanding perception, understanding art, asking critical questions as well. And like as artists, I think work outside the box and interrogate the system that is AI and get into the box. I think that's where a lot of interesting questions are asked.
Hmm. I think with like AR and VR, kind of like with like what the things you've been working on, uh, what I kind of like envision being like one of the goals of it would be like being able to like actually show another person like your dream that you had, like train a
Yeah.
machine on like what was like firing off in your brain, and then have another person actually be able to see that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there was work in like 2012 by Jack Clark in Berkeley, and they were working on this problem. There was
Hmm.
another research lab in Japan. I'm going to forget the last names, but that really inspired me, during my PhD, and I wanted to work on that exact problem. And
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to work with a Dartmouth lab for my postdoc, working on imagined music and imagined sound.
Hmm.
And we worked on this problem of, could we use an fMRI scanner to train how we hear sounds and then have somebody imagine a sequence of sounds and reconstruct that imagination of sound.
Hmm.
And it sort of worked, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was focusing on musical scales, so it wasn't like
Hmm.
anything too complex. And there's a huge constraint with fMRI that it's very slow temporally. So it's like every 2 seconds you get a note. So it's pretty limiting in what you can do. But I imagine that technology just gets better and better, and you
Yeah, I
compare it with
imagine
other
like,
technologies.
especially if you're able to like get down like human dreams, it's not too far off from like being able to see what like a dog sees, or like, what's a cat thinking when it's like pushing over your glass of water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's wild to think about. I imagine those dreams are. I'm not sure what to think, but yeah, it'd be wild.